And hello, everyone. Welcome to a Lyndhurst Community News Special Edition. My name is Brian Haggerty, and today is Monday, May 13th. Of course, we will have our regular broadcast this coming Wednesday, as we do every week. But as promised, I wanted to bring to you this special edition, which is an interview or a time spent with the former Mayor Lou Stellato, who is the current chairman of the Lyndhurst Redevelopment Agency. Now, some of you or most of you who are regular listeners know that back in the fall, the township applied to the state of New Jersey for permission to form this agency, whose charge is to come up with plans, ideas, suggestions, and to report back to the mayor and board of commissioners with regard to A, what to do with the Lincoln School property, and B, what to do with remaining areas in need of development, such as areas of Stuyvesant, Ridge Road, Valley Brook Avenue. In other words, what can we do to truly improve upon our business districts, bringing in new and higher tax ratables as a result? But most important is that this agency and those who serve on it, who are all Lyndhurst residents, and they all serve as volunteers. They wish to get the input of as many Lyndhurst residents as possible because, as former Mayor Stellato says, there could be somebody out there with an idea that no one else has thought of. So this is rather lengthy. It is just he speaking and explaining the ideas behind the agency, what the agency is seeking to do, as well as some of the suggestions and ideas, whether it be senior citizen housing, housing for veterans, housing for people with special needs. Those are among some of the ideas, if not all three of them together, and there's no reason that can't be addressed. So without further ado, I will bring you now to former Mayor Stellato as he will speak on the Lyndhurst Redevelopment Agency.
What I'm about to do this morning is to talk in detail about the Township of Lyndhurst Redevelopment Agency. A couple months back, the Mayor and Board of Commissioners put together an ordinance constructing a redevelopment agency. And the purpose or the goal, if you would, of the redevelopment agency here in Lyndhurst is to enhance the quality of life, improve the economic and housing opportunities, and build strong, viable partnerships within the community. The members of our agency are all volunteers. There's a 7-member board, and that board it consists of Mr. Frank Pizzola, a local businessman, Mr. Michael DeMarco, president of his own company. He also serves as the secretary of the agency. Kathy Junta from the BCB Bank, Anthony Barone from New Jersey Transit, and Mr. Stephen Vandola, who was with the Port Authority. The vice chair is Mr. Jim Kirkos, who is the executive director of the Meadowlands Chamber of Commerce, and I serve as the chairman. There are 5-year terms, and they stagger. So the first series of terms is a 1-year term, 2-year term, 3-year term, so on and so forth. Then as the terms expire, the reappointment is a 5-year term so that there's always someone there to pick up the slack. So it's not a complete transition, if you would. So with that in mind, we have had our meetings. We're in the embryonic stages here. So two months ago, we became a legitimate agency, if you would, and we've started to have meetings. First meeting was just simply the embryonic stage early meeting, and then the second meeting we talked about some of the things that would affect the agency, and one of them being the legislation that's passing or discussed being passed on affordable housing. So we have a planner, and we have a attorney as well. So both the planner and the attorney were at that meeting. Now, in between meetings, we've decided as a board to go out to as many agencies as we physically can. That's what makes this such a great vehicle, because some people who we may not be able to hit can through your podcast get in touch with us. So we've been in touch with senior citizens groups, veterans groups, women's club, merchants association, some of the other social and civic clubs within the town, to have meetings. And we're already at our fifth or sixth meeting, if you would, since we started this. What we're looking to achieve by meeting with the folks of the township is to get an understanding of what they might like to see as the future of Lyndhurst. You see, this is just a blueprint. It's not etched in stone. But what we want to do, we want to meticulously reach out to as many and as often as possible to make certain that we've reached as much of the spread of the community as we can. You know, it's an interesting concept, but Lyndhurst, which has been around for a long time, doesn't have much to go as far as land. So you have to go up, not out. And you don't want to go up and make it look like the Grand Canyon. So you want to stay 3-4 stories high, total. And the first story, in all likelihood, is going to have to be parking, because that's one of the premier problems. And what you don't want to do is add insult to injury, if you would, and add more parking. Or unless, let me put it this way, you need to add more parking. You don't want to not add parking. And you know, it's interesting, in meeting with these groups, there's many ideas that come across, and we'll take all of those and we'll digest them and talk about them in detail, which I'm more than happy to do at this point. As we have, as I said, met with some of the groups, housing is something that we have to be concerned with. But, you know, it can be structured in a way that could be beneficial to all. For example, senior citizen housing is always an important thing. And in particular, if it could be done properly, there are a lot of people who have lost their parents, lost a spouse, and immediately they may think about selling their home and moving away. And after they're away for a while, they realize that may not have been the way to go. They don't have the doctor, they don't have the hairdresser, they don't have the church of worship, they don't have their relatives, their neighbors, their friends. So there's a huge void. So they look to come back. So I believe that if you had good quality housing that people could live in, they would stay within the town. You get to my age, and the last thing you need to do is worry about mowing a front yard and a side yard and a backyard and shoveling the snow. You want to have those services part and parcel of your rent, and you want to live in 2-3 rooms, basically. So it's interesting to see that coupled with the need for veterans housing, housing for the disabled. So there are a lot of things. So when you say housing, you know, John Q. Public might just say, oh my God, we're just going to be adding apartments and on apartments. That's not necessarily what it has to be. It can be done in an orderly way with a good, clean development, with parking on the main level and 2 or 3 stories of residence. I mean, you could even get more creative and have parking on the main level with some retail. Retail's another story, and I don't know where we're going to go with retail. You surely don't want to have empty stores. That's the last thing you need. And today, between Amazon and malls all over the place, the local merchant is not the same. You know, years and years ago, there was a number of butchers in town. They're gone. That butcher maybe belonged to the Rotary Club. That's gone. belonged to the Kiwanis Club, that's gone. Made donations for the Little League, knew the way your mother cut of meat was, and then the supermarkets came and they were a little bit cheaper per pound, and people started to go there. Then you have Costco, where you now buy a side of beef and you whack it up with your neighbors. So the way that we shop, the way that commerce has taken place, you have to be cognizant of that. Hardware stores, they were a mainstay in most every town. They're all gone. You can't compete with Lowe's. You can't compete with Costco. You can't compete with Home Depot. I mean, you just can't. Florists can't compete with Lowe's and Home Depot. So you see where these things have changed. So the storefront that was the shoemaker is gone, thanks to Neolite Souls. The butcher is gone, which we just mentioned. The TV repairman is surely gone. You pay less for a TV today than you did 40 years ago. And you can pick it up with one hand. So all of these things have made an evolution, if you would. And you can only have so many hair and nail salons and pizzerias. One of the areas that we are looking at redevelopment might wind up being a restaurant row. You can't have 6 or 8 restaurants all the same. You would need a sampling of different restaurants, because we know that the people who are moving into this area, not only Lyndhurst, the whole South Bergen area, are working people who don't eat at home. They eat out the plurality, if not the majority, of the week. So they're looking for variation. So a restaurant row is something that could possibly work, but it's got to be done properly. And parking becomes, the primo situation. There are more people living in Lyndhurst today than there were 20 years ago. There are less people in the schools today than there was 20 years ago. So that tells you that one of the fears is, well, if we put up 8 apartments, we're going to have to do something with the school. There was an interesting statistic that just came out of Rutgers University that for every so many units, the amount of school children were like 1 per 40 units. That's negligible. People are having less children. People are getting married later. People are moving to where they can commute to their place of business. So if you're working in New York and you're in a town that has right now 2 train stations, and very soon we'll have 1 that can get you into Manhattan in 20 minutes or less, the likelihood of that apartment being housed with school-age children is negligible. We also have a very large transit lot, which is underutilized. One of the other things that should be considered is where the commerce is, where the business is. We have an excellent shuttle bus system. So if the employees were to park there and be bused to where they worked, that would take that much more glut off of the street, would allow someone to pull up to get takeout, or pull up to have lunch, or pull up to walk the street to do the retail that they want to do. We have 2 strip malls that are doing fairly well. A couple of empty stores there, but they'll be filled. There's always people looking. So our duty is to look at those areas that have been designated for redevelopment. Ridge Road is right now the number one concern. You have Lincoln School, you have a number of vacant gas stations, you have some empty stores, and that's the gateway into the town. So what we're going to want to do is take a strong look at what we might be able to ascertain in that area. And it doesn't have to be Ridge Road from Rutherford Avenue to Chauncey, because Ridge Road, like Stuyvesant, like Valley Brook, are a classic mixed use. You can ride down Ridge Road and see single-family homes. You can ride down Ridge Road and see corporate buildings. You can see retail. You can see multifamily. You can see just about everything. Valley Brook is this very same way. And Stuyvesant, for the most part, once you get south of Fern Avenue, it's like Main Street, USA. So the ideas that we're ascertaining from these meetings are interesting ideas. They're good ideas, and they will be put together so that when we make a comprehensive white paper to the Mayor and Board of Commissioners, it will have everything and anything that could possibly happen within the town. Look, we are the only town in South Bergen that doesn't have parking meters. I don't happen to agree with the theory of parking meters. I think by the time you pay for the broken meters and you pay for somebody to maintain the meters and you pay for the meter maid, it's much easier and cheaper, arguably, to have someone marking with a chalk stick every 2 hours to see if they have in fact moved. And if those people who are there have been employees, which you got to get to work, and we develop some type of transportation from a designated area for them, then those cars will not be on the lot. All you have to do is look at Valley Brook Avenue before ShopRite moved and Valley Brook Avenue today. I used to walk to the post office because you couldn't get a parking space. Now you can pretty much park where you wish on Valley Brook Avenue. So I happen to agree with the theory that if you were to get something where there could be transit to take the employees from a lot, like the transit lot, to their place of work, you would remove a goodly amount of cars from the street. Look, whether you're talking about hair and nail salons, whether you're talking about pizzerias, there's a number of people have to be there. Whether it's the people who are making the pizza, serving the pizza, cleaning the tables, they have to get to work somehow. No different than the people who are doing the manicures, the pedicures, doing the hairstyling, doing the cash register. They all have to get to work somehow. So those cars would then not be right in front of the place of business. Also, as we said earlier, there's nowhere to go out. And to buy a property to make a parking lot is a very expensive proposition. Extremely expensive. Because the lots aren't that big. By the time you put the egress and ingress and the roadway and the 9-foot by 18-foot spaces, which is the minimum you can do, you're lucky if you get 8 spaces in a parcel of the sizes we're talking in terms of. But worse than that, if you try to do tier parking, the cost to get down to solid terra firma, to put poured concrete, to make 3 or 4 tiers of parking is a very expensive proposition. And no builder is going to invest money to make parking. I don't see the feasibility of the township doing that at this moment. But again, these are just ideas that have been thrown out that we are formulating to make our report once we've sat down with everyone, and you know, the board itself and the agency needs to get educated. We will bring in the experts from Rutgers and what have you to explain to the board, all of our members, what the obligation is and what you can and cannot do. It's not a planning board. It's an agency that will undertake the redevelopment projects. They can do a lot of things, but the number one thing is to contact public agencies and redevelopment people for any project or redevelopment work. Professional services and other consultants to carry out the redevelopment projects are already on our board. So we have an idea of what we would like to see, but it's an open idea, and we're far from having made up our mind. All we're going to do is make a strong recommendation to the mayor and commissioners as to what we think. Now, we've been without a redevelopment agency for almost 100 years, so you can't do this in 100 days as much as you'd like to. But by sometime next year, we will be able to put our white paper together and present it to the mayor and board of commissioners. And then they will fine tune that. They may say, well, this is exactly where we want to be. Everybody has different ideas as to what they should or shouldn't or can or cannot do. And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is something that right now, it's like building a house. We're making the foundation. That foundation's got to be strong, because then that can handle anything that you put on top of it. So it can't be a subjective thing. It's got to be very objective. And it's got to show where we're going and how we plan to get there. It's that simple. So the most important thing is to, with an open mind, and the board is completely open, to get to as many people as we possibly can, to hear their ideas. And there's no such thing as a foolish question. There's no such thing as a foolish idea. Any and all ideas we're going to take, and we're going to take them seriously, because somebody may just come up with the pearl in the oyster that we didn't see. We don't have all the answers. We like to believe we do, but we surely don't. And I feel strongly that those people, the good people in Lyndhurst, the people who love their town, your town, my town, our town, we will come up with a good, solid plan. Look, we are in a situation where we're getting a multi-million-dollar train station that, as I said earlier, will get you into Manhattan in 20 minutes. That's a selling point right then and there. Our redevelopment area right now is restricted, but that doesn't mean it's got to be constricted. It could move on. That redevelopment could wind up on River Road, could wind up on New York Avenue, could wind up anywhere where the mayor and commissioners sees fit. They're working on the master plan right now as we speak, which they have to do by law every 10 years. So that surely is going to be incorporated. And the redevelopment agency will have a part of the master plan. There'll be I'm sure, some mention within the master plan that we now have a redevelopment agency, which will be the ones who will undertake the development projects for the purpose of making sure that there's an orderly manner and whatever has to happen there. I feel that we're on the cusp. You saw what North Arlington has done, and you saw what Rutherford has done. And there's no reason why Lyndhurst can't do this very same thing. Rutherford, their Park Avenue was tailor-made. They had look, They had their share of bumps in the road. When Fairleigh Dickinson left Rutherford, there were a lot of empty stores. Their business association did a masterful job in getting that back on its feet. Number of restaurants, number of different types of restaurants, a smattering of residential, some commercial. They did a very good job. And the key, they restored, not to the magnitude of Lyndhurst, but they did in fact restore their train station. They did it with federal money. We're doing it with federal and state money. So we're getting a nice shot in the arm, if you would, to make that 22nd century train station. Rutherford has Northampton, no train station. They did their things a little differently. They did a lot of purely residential. Up and down Ridge Road. Took away some general and commercial and replaced it with some retail and some residential. So these are the different things that you see in towns very similar to us. I mean, you don't have to go far. You don't have to go to Ridgewood or Hohokus or Maplewood to see what they've done. I mean, Maplewood is a classic example. They have had a restaurant row for 40 years. That's thriving. Westwood, Ridgewood. So all of these towns were able to put together a constructive plan whereby they got a little bit of everything so that it was a shot in the arm to the economy of the community, but equally it kept the integrity of the town. You go to certain towns, they're very restrictive as to what you can do with your storefronts. Fort Lee, the streetscape, it's all pavers and street lights. The Merchants Association did these things, working in conjunction with the borough of Fort Lee to make the streets very pleasant to walk down, very easy to walk down, because everything's one level. You don't have to worry about things rising and falling, and some macadam, some slate, some concrete. No, it's all the same. No builder's going to come in because that paver's on the curb. I understand that. But what I'm saying is it's the perception that the merchants and the town fathers of that particular community are working in tandem to make it accessible and interesting for an entrepreneur, a builder, to come forward and say, hey, you know what? I want to do something in this town. So those are the plans that we have here in the primary stages of our redevelopment. I'm very excited about the responses that we've gotten so far. Every time we go to a meeting and give our presentation, the people receive us with open arms. They like what they're hearing. They have ideas. They always ask, what is this going to cost? Well, look, with the right development, this could be a boom for the township. It will bring in additional tax revenue. And it could be good development that doesn't require the services that we talked about earlier. Infrastructure, use of the facilities, children in the school, all of these things will be negligible if it's done properly. And through no fault or action of our own, as there are, let's look. My father came from a family of 6 who married a family of 6, and now if you have 3 kids, you have a lot of kids. Everybody's having 1.5 and a dog. So you used to get married when you were 20 and had children. Now people aren't getting married till in their 30s. They might have a child, maybe no children. So as I said earlier, you got a town that's got 4 or 5,000 more people than it did 30 years ago, and there's less kids in the school system. So that tells you right there that one of the major fears is that we're not going to be able to handle it with the schools. I don't see that as an issue. You cannot use it as an issue for those people of concern. And as far as the Meadowlands, I think that has been tapped out. Sitting on that board, I don't think you're going to see much more, if any, housing down there. I mean, there's all kinds of rumors about the Quality Inn going to be housing people. That's not true. The Holiday Inn is going to become storage cubes. I don't see, there was another rumor that Copper Ridge was going to be apartments. It's not. It's going to be a hotel. Extended stay, actually, for those people who work in the corporate area. But you got to remember, when you talk about the Meadowlands, you got to be talking about 12 to 14 towns in that Meadowlands district. So, we become one amalgamated unit of Hudson and Bergen County, of those towns that touch there. It's 18 miles, about the size of Manhattan. So what happens in Lyndhurst directly affects what happens in Moonachie, what happens in East Rutherford, what happens in Jersey City, and so on and so forth. So the Meadowlands will now, I'm fairly confident, be developed in an orderly manner. Now you have to understand too, because of legislation from the 60s, the tax that is generated in the Meadowlands, the township only receives about half of that, because there's a funding plan where some years Lyndhurst collects money and some years Lyndhurst has to pay money. But towns like Secaucus pay every year because they have housing and they have warehousing and they have retail in the meadows. Kearney receives money every year because they have taken the dumps. Lyndhurst has a little bit of both in the meadows, primarily general, commercial, industrial, some residential. So some years they pay, some years they receive. But anything that I'm talking about today in our redevelopment areas is all Lyndhurst. So that money is not shared with anyone. That money goes to the Lyndhurst coffers for Lyndhurst to use as they see fit. If you do have a smattering of residential with commercial or retail, you will be able to have built-in security. People my age, we're reading at 5 o'clock and we're watching Jeopardy and whatever else in the evening. We're there. We are built-in security for those businesses. They're not standalone that somebody could come in, hit it with a sledgehammer, take a cash register and run away. It can be done, but there are people in the area, immediate area, who would serve as built-in security. I know now, the minute you hear any noise around your home, first thing you do is run to your window. So these things may sound minimal, menial, but they're all part and parcel of the big package. And our job is to put this big package together with a big bow on it and present it to the mayor and board of commissioners, who then will make the decisions because they are the town fathers. But we take this opportunity very seriously, and we're looking forward to making this as good as it gets. This will be the best of the best, and Lyndhurst will be on top of the scale in South Bergen with this redevelopment.
Okay, there we have it. That was a lot of information in about a half an hour. And I'd like to thank Mayor Stellato for taking the time to sit down and share his thoughts, as well as the thinking and the background of this redevelopment agency. One thing I forgot to mention early on is that former Mayor Stellato also sits as a commissioner on the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority. In fact, we have another former mayor Anthony Scardino, and State Senator Scardino also serve on as a commissioner on the Sports and Exposition Authority. So that's nice that Lyndhurst has that kind of representation, because it is that agency, which is a state agency, that has zoning authority over the Meadowlands District, which includes the Lyndhurst Meadowlands. I was very happy to hear that some of those rumors were put to bed, that the Copper Ridge building will be an extended stay for business people who travel and stay somewhere on an extended basis and don't want to stay in a hotel. And also that the old Quality Inn is going to be a storage facility, and that he believes, in his opinion, that no more apartments will be added to the Lyndhurst Meadowlands. And this is, again, a big challenge, as I've discussed quite often, how each township deals with the state mandate regarding affordable housing units. And the battle, and the uphill battle, and the fear that most communities have is that if you deny a developer the right to develop a piece of property within reason, that developer could then seek builder's remedy in a lawsuit, which pretty much 99.9% of the time, they will win, because judges are always looking at a community's affordable housing units and how many units they may be under. And according to the state and their formula, we are very much under. That's a conversation for another time. I hope you enjoyed all of this. Certainly, if you have ideas, reach out through the mayor's office, and they will have regular meetings that will be taking place in the town hall. But again, as he said, he has been and will continue meeting with as many groups and organizations around town to get as much input as possible, because this really does need to be a community involvement venture. We really need to get as many people to voice their opinions and ideas as possible. This is not going to happen overnight. Anything that gets decided upon is going to take years to implement. So it will be a lengthy process, but let's all get involved and let's together decide what our vision will be moving forward for this wonderful community that we call Lyndhurst. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. See you on Wednesday with our regular weekly scheduled community news, Lyndhurst Community News. Until then, this is Brian Haggerty. Have a great day.